Ethiopia's political landscape has shifted dramatically in recent years, marking a period of both great anticipation and deep uncertainty for millions of its citizens. The country, long known for its complex history and diverse cultures, found itself at a crossroads, with the promise of change on the horizon. This transformation began in earnest with Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's sweeping reforms in 2018. His rise to power was met with widespread jubilation as Ethiopians from all walks of life hoped for a new era of openness, peace, and prosperity. Among his most significant actions were the release of thousands of political prisoners and the unbanning of opposition groups, moves that were hailed as historic steps toward democracy. For the first time in decades, many Ethiopians felt their voices might truly be heard. However, the initial optimism soon gave way to new challenges. Deep-seated ethnic tensions and political rivalries long simmering beneath the surface began to erupt once more. Violent clashes and heated debates threatened the fragile sense of unity that had briefly taken hold. Ethiopia's federal system, designed to empower its many regional states, has at times intensified these divisions. While intended to give voice to diverse communities, it has also complicated efforts to build a cohesive national identity and centralize authority. Economic instability and recurring ethnic violence continue to plague the nation. In regions like Oromia, resistance to centralization under the Prosperity Party has led to unrest, with protests and security crackdowns becoming all too common. As Ethiopia faces mounting external pressures and internal divisions, the dream of lasting reform remains just out of reach. The struggle for peace, unity, and true democracy continues, shaping the hopes and fears of a nation in transition. Oromia, Ethiopia's largest region, remains at the heart of political unrest and violence. Clashes between government forces and the Oromo Liberation Army, OLA, have displaced hundreds of thousands, worsening an already dire humanitarian crisis. Communication blackouts and disrupted transport further isolate affected communities. Both government and OLA forces face accusations of human rights abuses, including executions and abductions. International attention is limited due to reporting restrictions, leaving civilians to suffer in silence. The unresolved conflict in Oromia threatens not just regional, but national stability. The federal government, under the leadership of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, has made national unity its top priority. Abiy's administration believes that a strong, unified Ethiopia is essential for peace and prosperity, especially in the face of ongoing challenges. This vision is rooted in the idea that only by coming together as one nation can Ethiopia overcome its deep-seated divisions and move forward. Alongside this push for unity, the government has launched ambitious economic reforms, aiming to modernize the country and create opportunities for all Ethiopians. However, these efforts have unfolded against a backdrop of civil unrest, with protests and clashes highlighting the tensions simmering beneath the surface. Major infrastructure projects, such as new roads and energy initiatives, are being rolled out to boost development. At the same time, military operations have been deployed in regions experiencing instability, with the goal of restoring order and protecting civilians from violence. Yet, critics argue that relying on military force alone cannot address the root causes of unrest. They warn that heavy-handed tactics may deepen resentment and alienate communities, making true peace even harder to achieve. The government's decision to label the Oromo Liberation Army, or OLA, as a terrorist organization has further complicated matters. Many believe this move has only deepened divisions, making it more difficult for opposing sides to come to the table and engage in meaningful dialogue. Centralizing power under the Prosperity Party is seen by some as a necessary step to reduce ethnic strife and promote a shared national identity. Supporters argue that a unified political front can help steer Ethiopia through turbulent times and prevent further fragmentation. But others, especially in regions like Oromia, argue that this approach undermines regional autonomy and the right of local communities to govern themselves. They fear that centralization could erase cultural identities and silence diverse voices. Trust between the federal government and regional leaders remains fragile. While reconciliation efforts and peace talks have begun, building genuine trust will take time and patience from all sides. Progress is slow and uncertain, with negotiations often stalling over key issues like power sharing, resource allocation, and security guarantees. Many Ethiopians are left waiting, hoping for signs of real change. Without genuine inclusive dialogue that addresses the concerns of all communities, lasting stability and peace will remain out of reach for Ethiopia. The path forward demands compromise, empathy, and a willingness to listen to every voice. Across Ethiopia, opposition parties and civil society organizations are raising their voices, calling for a genuine national dialogue that includes all segments of society. They argue that only by bringing together diverse perspectives, across ethnic, political, and regional lines, can the country begin to heal its deep divisions and chart a new course for the future. These groups are demanding inclusive reforms and a commitment to peace that goes beyond military solutions. They insist that negotiation, compromise, and mutual understanding are essential for lasting stability, and that force alone cannot resolve Ethiopia's complex challenges. The political landscape remains highly contested, shaped by a web of competing ethnic identities and political interests. Tensions often flare as different groups vie for representation and influence, making consensus difficult to achieve. Opposition groups continue to face significant obstacles as they struggle to gain ground against the dominant Prosperity Party, which maintains a firm grip on power. Despite these challenges, they persist in advocating for a more open and participatory political system. Efforts to foster dialogue are frequently undermined by deep mistrust, sporadic violence, and the scars of past conflicts. Many communities remain wary, fearing that promises of peace may not be kept. Yet, despite these setbacks, there is a growing recognition among Ethiopians that only through honest dialogue and reconciliation can the cycle of conflict be broken and a foundation for lasting peace be built. The success of any peace process will depend on the willingness of all parties to confront difficult truths and address the root causes of conflict, including issues of marginalization, governance, and historical grievances. In this critical moment, the role of the opposition remains vital, not only in challenging the status quo but in helping to shape a more democratic, inclusive, and hopeful future for Ethiopia. Political turmoil, especially in Oromia, has deepened Ethiopia's economic and social crises. Inflation, unemployment, and disrupted trade have left millions struggling to survive. Farmers and small businesses face insecurity and market shortages, while displaced families lose homes and livelihoods. Climate shocks like droughts and floods worsen the humanitarian crisis, especially for women and children. Cuts in international aid further strain resources. Economic recovery hinges on peace, stability, and targeted reforms to address poverty and inequality. Social media is a powerful force in Ethiopia, shaping public opinion and mobilizing communities, especially where traditional media is limited. However, misinformation and propaganda fuel division and conflict, with both government and opposition exploiting these platforms. The government's attempts to regulate social media have drawn criticism for restricting free speech. Balancing security and fundamental freedoms remains a challenge. Media literacy and responsible communication are increasingly recognized as essential. Combating misinformation must go hand in hand with promoting dialogue and understanding. Ethiopia stands at a crossroads, facing tough questions about peace, dialogue, and reform. The conflict in Oromia and broader instability demand a commitment to reconciliation and inclusive governance. Meaningful negotiations are crucial to resolving deep-rooted tensions. Economic reform, focused on infrastructure, education, and healthcare, is equally vital. The government and its partners must ensure growth benefits all Ethiopians. Ethiopia's future depends on dialogue, resilience, and the promise of reform.